Hello and welcome to Art Show. I'm Craig Stover, and today I have with me Jonte Drew. Hey, Jonte, how are you?
I'm doing good. You?
Very good. Are you ready for
Good.
today?
Yeah, I'm ready. Let's go.
Okay. I want to start like I normally do right away by sharing some images of yours. So I went on your sites, and I looked at a bunch of images, and these are in no particular order, but pieces that I found really fascinating. So I think this is a little bit older of a piece of work of yours.
Yeah,
But I
I
love
did
this
this.
painting. Can you tell me a little bit about this?
Thank you. Yeah. This one is called It's About Time.
Hmm.
And I did this back in 2021 for my MFA thesis presentation. And so with this series, I did a total of six paintings. And one of So it was kind of like split into two triptychs. So one triptych is like the real world that I grew up in and habitated in, and then the other three are pretty much like a made-up, idealized world called the Green Pastures. So in this painting, in particular, I wanted to talk about sort of just like everything that was going on around the time, especially during like the pandemic and quarantine. And
Hmm.
so if you look in the mirror, um, on the TV, there's like a TV screen and you see the words "Here we go again." So I
Mm.
just felt like every time I was turning on the news, there was just like always something going on, something like politically charged, and like the news was just, just
Uh-huh.
on fire, like, for days during that period. And I also wanted to kind of like capture myself in like this barbershop scene,
Okay.
because in the series I talk a lot about just kind of like growing up in the Black community and like
Yeah.
aspects of Black culture that have influenced me. And so growing up in the barbershop is just one of those rooms that I would say where you learn a lot about masculinity, the way
Hmm.
that other Black men think. You hear a lot of conversations. So I wanted to kind of capture like that essence of like an old school barbershop with like the different
Hmm.
warm tones and a lot of browns and beige. And you see, different aspects that you would normally see in a barbershop, where it's like Black hair care products.
Right.
You see pictures of family members, memories. So yeah, just all these different aspects I wanted to combine into this painting.
So I got two questions out of this picture that
Right.
I need answered. Number one is the little black lamb or black sheep in the bottom. Is that a representative of yourself?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you're the
So
black sheep
this
of your family?
Yeah, so yeah, exactly. So that's the connection that I was trying to make in this series. So throughout the paintings, you'll see the black lamb, the black sheep, and pretty much just growing up, I kind of always felt that way.
Hmm.
And so during this series, it was kind of like an unpacking of that feeling. So in all the paintings, you'll see like the black sheep in all the paintings, sort of like with me. So it's kind of like an extension of myself.
Figured that one. But the other one I'm curious about, I noticed that you did say it was yourself. There's no reflection of yourself in the mirror.
Mhm.
So I'm curious, is that on purpose? Are you trying to take yourself out of the picture? Or do you consider yourself like an invisible man? Or, or it just didn't work with the picture?
Yeah, I think it was a combination of what you're saying. It's sort of just like me almost playing off of, I thought it would kind of be cool to not add my reflection.
Mhm.
I felt that it wasn't necessarily needed, but then once I finished the painting, I was like, you know what? I think I kind of like it without my reflection. And so I wanted to kind of just like leave it up to the viewer, just to kind of see how they, interpret that,
Yeah.
you
I mean,
know?
I get that. I mean, I by not doing that, whoever is viewing it then becomes the reflection themselves. So I totally
Absolutely.
get it. This picture works for me on many levels. So I was
Okay.
very thrilled by
Yeah,
it.
thank you.
This is more the kind of thing that I think more people know you from.
Mhm.
So there's several versions of this.
Right.
I found this one particularly stunning
Thank you.
because I think the way you treat the background and the textures of the flowers is just really fantastic.
Thank you.
What were you thinking?
Yeah, so I got a residency right after grad school in 2021. And this series is called Take a Breath. And so long story short, this was pretty much inspired from just sort of like the state of reflection that I was in during quarantine.
Mhm,
And so I really just started to appreciate just being outside more, being in nature more,
mhm,
really started getting into medicinal plants and herbs and everything. And I really just sort of like just taking my health and mental health a lot more seriously. And so when I was working on this, I wanted to just, I just kept having this vision of like me sort of like looking out just like into the sky. I spent a lot of time outside, pretty much just like this, just for,
mhm,
at least an hour, just like meditating, talking to myself, talking to God. And funny enough, I always wear a do-rag, especially during this time. No one was really going to like the barbershop or like, getting their hair
mhm,
done or anything
right.
like that. So I pretty much spent all day, every day in a do-rag. So I thought it would kind of be interesting to sort of like push the
Mhm.
narrative like the do-rag and like sort of like the functionality around the do-rag.
But you
And
don't
I
have
thought it would kind of be
do-rags like this. This is an invention, right? This is,
absolutely. Yeah.
and I'm curious to know, because you mentioned the fact that you got into herbology, or I couldn't remember
Mhm.
what your wording is, but uh, are you aware of the specific flowers and plants that you're putting in here? Do they have, are you putting them, using them because they have specific meanings?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So during research, so I have like echinacea, I have chamomile, and
Okay.
also lavender. Yeah. So I did like a little bit of research like before I started adding the plants.
They all
And
seem like they're uh, relaxing herbs, or things that would chill you out. Is that true, or am I
100%.
stretching?
Yeah. 100% help you go to sleep, help you
Okay.
relax, calm your anxiety, all that. Yeah.
Uh-huh. It's a fantastic piece.
Thank
And
you.
then I think that was a drawing, and this is a painting. Am I correct in that?
Right. That was a drawing. This is a painting.
Okay. And your paintings are a little bit larger.
So the this one is small. I think this one is like uh maybe 8 by 8.
Oh, so it's much smaller. It's not
Yeah.
life size. It's much smaller.
Right. Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
And again, are you using the specific types of flowers to talk about something specific?
Yeah, absolutely.
But
Mhm.
I noticed there's no background in this.
Yeah, so I wanted to see what it looked like. Just sort of just exploring. This is pretty much a new project for me, so I wanted to see what the paintings will look like, just like sort of just like a flat white background,
Mhm.
in contrast to like all the color and patterns.
Right.
So yeah.
So I also noticed that a lot of these works have quite interesting titles.
Mhm.
And so I'm curious to know, do you do you title them afterwards, or do you have some idea when you're making them?
Yeah, no, I titled them afterwards. Yeah, I make the
Afterwards?
word,
Okay.
and then however it speaks to me or whatever I come across, I like naming things. So I'll just like let the piece just speak to me, and then I just always kind of come up with the name or title afterwards.
Okay. And you always title, you don't, do you ever take suggestions?
No,
No? Okay,
yeah,
that's
no.
perfect. And this one I thought was just wonderful. Now, this is smaller. This is a watercolor on paper.
Yeah, so this one is actually the same size as the floral durag one. It's is
Okay.
24 by 36.
So this tells, it seems like, and I don't know if I'm going in order here, but there seems like a story that's evolving in this, and this seems like it's like you've opened the door, right? So there's
Absolutely. Yeah,
something new here about,
absolutely.
the idea of the meditation above nature, but you're both in nature and above it at the same time.
Mm.
So can you just give me a word about this?
Yeah, same as like the floral durag one, pretty much during following quarantine, spent a lot of time really taking meditation seriously. So I wanted to kind of do something, to kind of extend like that conversation of just like me sort of just like meditating like in the morning. And then I thought it would be kind of just be interesting to just kind of show myself levitating like above ground. Just kind of just having fun with the composition, sort of like breaking up the space, making it more interesting.
I do find it fascinating that on all of
Thank
these,
you.
not you're never showing your face,
Right. Yeah.
right? So it's
Right.
got that bit of a mystery that's
Right.
involved with it, but it also allows the viewer to put themselves in the position.
Absolutely.
So I just wanted to show this one last piece because again, that storyline that elevates. Before you weren't touching the ground. You're still not touching the ground here, but you seem a lot more at peace with it, I guess I want
For
to say.
sure. For
Is
sure.
that the waterfall in the distance? Is that what that's about?
Yeah, absolutely. This is actually taken from I grew up in Paterson, so this is like the Paterson Falls in the background. So it's kind of like my background in the background. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
perfect. I like that a lot.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I've got a bunch of questions for you today.
Okay.
Curious to know about your beginnings in the art, and in particular, when you were very young. Do you remember any sort of a first exposure to art? Anything that really sticks in your mind as a first time that you got blown away by art?
Yeah, actually I took art classes. I started taking art classes when I was 11. And my art teacher was amazing. She created these like amazing realistic portraits that look like photographs. So I honestly credit a lot of like my portraiture to her, just like growing up and taking art classes with her. And she was amazing, really encouraged me. And I just remember just always being wowed by her work. And so I'm just like, my goal in life is to be just as good of an artist as she is when it comes to portraiture.
Or
So I really
better?
do credit, yeah, I really do credit a lot of my portrait work to her.
So then speed me along a little bit. At what point did you decide to officially become an artist? Or was that always the case?
Yeah, honestly, that was always the case. I always knew that, I wanted to pursue art, full throttle growing up. So all throughout high school, studied art, college, studied art, undergrad, grad, and yeah, it's kind of just led me to where I am here.
Okay. Did you ever have, aside from that first teacher, have you ever had other people who have been able to light your fire about your own creativity?
Yeah, for sure. I had a few high school teachers, my art class teachers, that were really inspiring as well. I love their work as well. They were really talented,
Okay.
really good with technical skill. And so that kind of inspired me to sort of like keep pushing and like, keep challenging myself as an artist. And even in college as well. So yeah.
Okay. Did you
Mhm.
go to college for art?
Yeah, I did. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So I pretty much studied fine art, graphic design,
So
teaching.
I have this question for later, but I'm curious now. I from based on your website and other places that I've seen you, I'm really looking at a lot of painting and drawing. I'm curious though, if you went to art school, is there room for sculpture or printmaking or
Yeah.
poetry or dance or anything else that tell me,
Yeah.
do you have any of those that are itching to do or have you already
Yeah.
done it?
Yeah, no, actually I have already done it. I took printmaking at least like 3 times. I love my
Okay.
professor. She's a master printmaker. And yeah, I mean, it's not my favorite medium, So I tend to sort of like just pretty much focus on drawing and painting. I feel like that's kind of like my stronger areas.
Is
The
it because
medium that
printmaking takes longer?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it's yeah, the process, the heavy process for me, a lot of times just I lose interest after a
So
while.
I run into a lot of artists who say the same thing. A lot of painters, and they're like, "Well, I love printmaking, but it takes too long." And
Yeah,
my answer is always the same. What you need is you need a master printer
yeah,
to work with you, so you can just say, "Here, let's do
100,
this," and then they
yeah,
do this. Speeds
yeah,
up the process. Because I am
100%.
only bringing this up because I would love to see your work as print editions.
Yeah,
I think it would be fantastic to see what you could do with that.
thank you.
But
Yeah,
speaking of your creativity, I want to know a little bit more about what sparks your creativity. In particular, you're in your studio, you're going to make something new. What is it that gets you moving?
yeah. Good question. Honestly, I have so randomly I'll just get waves of just like these creative thoughts and visions, especially when I'm trying to go to sleep at night. So a lot of times, I'll just put it like in my phone. I just have a whole bunch of notes. It's like a
Is it
long scroll.
is it meditation that sparks your creativity?
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
Okay.
Especially like before I go to sleep. Sometimes like especially if it's nice outside, I'll just go outside and just sort of just like zone out, and I feel
Yeah.
like that's when all the ideas sort of just come to me.
Because I
Yeah,
asked that question because I get artists, some artists will say, well, for me, it's literature. I got to be reading and that does it. But other people is like, well, for me, it's nature. I got to go take a walk before I'm in the studio.
yeah,
But for you, it sounds like a combination of things.
yeah, for sure.
That's
Yeah,
cool. Uh, so your work has been, I've well, from what I've seen, there seems to be like a progression in your work over the years. Has your work, do you feel that your work has changed over the years? And if so, how?
Yeah, 100%. When I first started, maybe about 5, 6 years ago, when I first started working on my own like conceptual like series and everything like that, one of the things that I asked myself was like, what do I want to say as an artist, you know? And so I started working on like a Black hair care series. And I actually think that that was probably the start of me working on the Durag series and not even realizing the connection. So it's kind of just interesting to see how that is sort of just like
One led to another.
yeah, 100%. Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely changed and um I've been challenging myself, as I've been working on the series.
So do you think that your change, that it's been an incremental change, like each thing that you do, you change up a little bit?
For sure. Yeah.
Because I don't see
Definitely.
you as the kind of artist like one day you're going to walk in, okay, I'm only going to paint, giant red abstractions now or
Yeah.
something. So
Yeah, no.
I do see
Yeah,
see
no.
the other. What I'm, and I think it's the reason I like your work is you pegged it right away, talking about the storyline within the picture. I think that that's something that not a lot of artists do, but I can
Mhm.
see it in your work.
Thank
I would love to curate a show of yours to actually see the progression as you move along.
thank you.
In particular, though, I'm wondering, when you look back at your work, do you consider it autobiographical at all in nature, or
For sure.
is it separate?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely autobiographical, for sure.
Okay.
I mean, a lot of what I talk about are experiences and things that like I go through, and sort of just like picking out aspects, of my own world and sort of channeling it into these sort of like narrative oriented storylines and series. So yeah, for sure.
So, what are you trying ultimately to tell your audiences?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I'm focusing right now is just showcasing more, especially Black figures in these sort of like idealized, romanticized spaces, almost to the degree of Kehinde Wiley. I really love his work. He's a big inspiration of mine. I've
Sorry,
seen his
who?
work. Kehinde Wiley.
Oh yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, a big fan of his work and just sort of his approach to how he represents Black figures and romanticizes them. I also want to follow along that route. Of course, on my own path, obviously. So this is something I'm still figuring out. But yeah, just showing just more Black figures in art, enjoying themselves, just sort of just like reveling in their beauty. Yeah, that's a story that's a narrative that I definitely want to keep, developing as time goes on.
Are there other artists that you go to for inspiration? Uh, is it mostly living artists that you're fascinated with, or are there historical artists?
Yeah, it's a combination of both. I'm also a really big fan of Toyin Olutala.
I don't know.
Um, Toyin, have you heard of her?
No, no, not yet.
Okay. She's an amazing artist. She's actually the one that got me inspired into doing pastel drawings.
Okay.
Really amazing, yeah, really amazing pastel drawings. I recently saw her work too. And I love, Michelangelo. I look at a lot of Italian Renaissance artists. I love William Bouguereau. I love how he paints his figures, soft delicateness. Hank Willis Thomas, Barkley Hendricks. Yeah, the list
Nice.
goes
So
on and
I love
on.
asking that question because not only do I always learn about a new artist that I need to know about, but it helps me understand, your work
Yeah,
about, I'll see those lines or those shapes lifted from it, even if you're not conscious of it or not.
yeah,
I
for
do have
sure.
one kind of crazy question, and this is
Okay,
just kind of a guess. I
okay.
noticed that most of your works are smaller in scale,
Mhm.
right? And is that because of size limitations? Is that because of like space? Do you have a giant studio, or is
Yeah, it's kind of like a two-part answer. So, a lot of the smaller durag paintings that I have, those were created specifically for shows that that require small work.
mm-hmm.
So, yeah, but then also to have a really small studio. So,
Okay. I'm just
things,
wondering about that.
yeah,
Well, the benefit of that is, I often find that artists are surprised to learn that when you have a smaller pieces, you're inviting the viewer to come in and get a closer look. It's a much more personal conversation. Like you're not shouting to a room full of people. You're having like one-on-one conversation.
right. Right.
And that's what I think with your specific storyline, I think that really works quite
Okay.
often. How
Okay.
often are you in your studio?
At least 4 times a week, 4 days a week at least.
Okay. For
Yeah.
long stretches or just whenever you can?
It depends. It honestly depends how I feel. That's how I do it. I come in and I have like a little list of things that I want to get done.
Okay.
Sometimes I'll be in here for 5 hours.
Hmm.
Other days, if there's something I have to get done, like a deadline,
Hmm.
uh, you know, maybe 9, 10 hours. So it really depends. Yeah.
This is a strange question, but one I love asking. Do you have any studio rituals? I'll tell you what I
Studio.
mean by that. When you
Okay.
go down to make a work of art, is there something or some things that you have to have in place in order to do it? I've got one artist that I talked to, and she's like, "Well, I have to have a half a tea sandwich and a cup of coffee." And somebody else would say, "Well, I have to have NPR on or some music or something." So, what's yours? What do you do to get moving?
Yeah. That's a good question. So yeah, so for one, I either listen to like a new album. I like listening to different artists. So I'll just kind of have like a playlist going with albums that I haven't really listened to before.
Okay,
Also too, I always have green tea with me, so I'm always like drinking green tea. And
okay,
everybody that knows me knows that I love like honey buns.
okay.
So most of the time, like I have like a box of honey buns in the studio or like some fruit snacks,
That is
just like
hilarious because that explains that you have that. There's a painting on your website of you
yeah,
receiving a honey
yeah.
bun from God, I
Yeah,
think.
for sure. Yeah,
I love
yeah,
that painting, but
yeah,
that explains it now.
yeah,
The honey bun
yeah,
fascination. That's
for
great.
sure. Yeah,
Oh,
so
I
I
love
guess
that.
it's kind of like my ritual. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So, if you had the opportunity, would you paint larger or do you enjoy the more smaller versions?
Yeah, I'm actually the series that I'm working on now, I'm doing more like realistic paintings with the floral durags. So I already did photography and everything like that. But yeah, this is going to be a little bit larger, so I'm excited about that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Are
really
you really
excited.
productive or do you take your time?
I take my time.
Okay.
Yeah.
How many paintings a year do you think you produce?
Um, it's a very small amount.
Okay.
I would say maybe close to 10.
Okay. All right. That's pretty good. I mean, I have a friend of mine who paints two a year. That's it.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it's not about quantity, it's quality. I think that's
For
really
sure.
helps come through.
Yeah,
Uh,
for sure.
so I've got time for just one final question. It's a question I
Okay.
ask a lot of artists.
Okay.
What does making art do for you?
Yeah, it's a really good question. Um, for one, it keeps me sane.
Mhm. You're not the
Um,
only one.
yeah, it keeps me sane for sure in so many different ways. But honestly, it makes me like it's just one of those things. It makes me feel alive, you know? It makes me feel like it's just a powerful feeling to visualize and conceptualize something and then to actually like physically make it into
Yeah,
something real and tangible. I love that feeling. And it makes me just feel like I'm contributing something to the world, you know, offering something to the world. So my art is not really for me. It's for, you know, for the world, for me to just, you know, I'm just pretty much just like a vessel, you know what I mean? So that's just a powerful feeling to sort of just produce work and release it, you know, to the
that's
world.
really interesting. Do you ever take breaks from your work? Do you ever take a long break?
Oh, for
How,
sure.
how,
Yeah.
how does that make you feel?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'll tell you this, after I finished my residency, which is pretty much like 6, 7 months, and then right after that, I was in like maybe 5 shows back to back, and I took maybe like at least a good 6 months off because it was just so much going on, a lot of good stuff. But I needed that break because I just felt like I was like on a hamster wheel, you know? So yeah, I take
When you
breaks.
came back from that, was it like amazing, or did it take some time to back into it?
Yeah, no, it was amazing because I felt like I was refreshed and I
Okay,
had by that point had so many ideas accumulated. So I just jumped into it.
that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, Jonte, I can't thank you enough for coming by and talking with me today. I really appreciate it. And I love
Thank
when
you.
artists are able to give me little bits of insight that completely changes my understanding of their work. And
Yeah.
you gave me like two or three there. So that's really
Okay.
fascinating.
Okay.
I wish I had shown that honey bun piece. That would make a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah.
sense.
It's my favorite
But
one.
I want to thank you so much for coming by and talking with me today about your work. Really appreciate it. And I want to
Thank you.
thank everybody who tuned in to watch our show today. We'd love it if you'd make any sort of likes, comments, and of course, subscribing helps push our show forward. And if you have any questions, and if we can't answer them, put the questions in the comment section, and we can always pass them along. So thank you again for watching. And again, thank you for coming and talking with me today. I really
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Take care, everyone.